Behind the harsh reality of headline stories, creative forces are constantly developing. Across the globe, people use their talents, their imagination, and their vision to break down powerful barriers. From a small backroom theater challenging a despotic regime, to the courage of individuals searching for expression. With rich colors and clear voices, people communicate to a wider world. Artscape, coming soon on Al Jazeera.
Israel captured the Golan Heights during the Six-Day War in 1967. The terrain is hilly, and the heights rise to between 120 and 520 meters, offering a strategic landscape of defense for Israel's northeast border. The Israelis and the Syrians are at their closest at the border crossing of Quneitra. A small United Nations force supervises the area of separation between the two sides. Syria and Israel have been the most implacable of enemies over the years. Although the Golan Heights has been one of the quietest front lines in the Arab-Israeli conflict, the mutual hostility between the two sides remains as entrenched as ever. Israel's control of the land was tightened in 1981 when it unilaterally annexed the Golan Heights. The move was not recognized internationally. Today, there are more than 30 Jewish settlements in the Golan, with over 20,000 settlers. One of these settlers is Efi Itam, a member of the Israeli parliament and the head of the renewed religious Nationalist Zionist Party. Itam fought on the Golan Front in the 1973 war, known to the Israelis as the Yom Kippur War.
I was here as a young officer during the Yom Kippur War, while Israel and the IDF were caught unprepared, and the only reason why Israel at that time was not defeated by the Syrian combined attack of Syrian and Egyptian armies at Yom Kippur, we were all fasting, we were all in the synagogues, was the fact that we had that small amount of strategic depth. It's not very big. The width and the depths of the Golan Heights is maximum 15 kilometers, but that actually what gave us enough time to call the reserves units and to save the state of Israel.
Despite this strategic depth, many experts predict that the critical issue between Israel and Syria over the Golan Heights is now less to do with the actual land and more to do with water. Israel gets as much as 30% of its water supplies from the Golan. The water supports the Jewish settlements as well as agriculture and other prosperous businesses. Chateau Golan is a winery situated beside the frontline fence. It was opened in the year 2000 with considerable investment capital, and today produces 75,000 bottles of fine wine per year.
The condition to grow wine grapes are very good in the Golan to compare to other places. There's another place, or some places in Galilee that's quite similar to Golanite. The reason is the elevation, the temperature in the winter time, in the summertime as well, and it's dry, very dry, and the soil is basalite, so it's gives us big advantage.
The vineyard is evidence of how the Israelis have settled and prospered in this region. For Israelis like Ribak, this is home, and a place where commerce can win over confrontation.
If we want peace really, and Syria want peace really, we can make business. You know, good business that both sides are pleased from the business. I have many Arab friends. Golanite is a nice area and quite big and quite empty. So many people come and live here. Doesn't mean which flag will be up of the mirror building or whatever. Really, it doesn't matter.
For now, the Golan Heights remains very much under the Israeli flag. Many Israelis come from other parts of the country to visit on holidays and at weekends and enjoy the natural beauty of the region. Despite the picnics and the relaxed atmosphere, the Israelis remain deeply suspicious about what they regard as the intentions of the Syrians on the other side of the front line.
The fact that they want the territory clean from Israelis, from Jews, it doesn't make the wall lower. It doesn't really open the fences. It just give us the territories and make the fence again as high as can be. That will just repeat hostility and reverse at the end the whole process. Peace is not about exchanging territories. Peace is about changing people's state of mind. Let's start with that. We are here. We live here. This is a part of Israel. It's a part of Israel more than Tel Aviv.
Across the divide, Syria regards such statements as provocative and takes a very different view.
بالنسبة للجولان العربي السوري المحتل يحتل
The Syrian Arab-occupied Golan is at the center of our hearts. Its return to Syrian sovereignty, all of it, is indisputable and recognized by all political, legal, and international laws.
السياسية والقانونية والدولية.
Syria refuses to participate in any Middle East peace negotiations without a guarantee that the future of the Golan Heights will be on the agenda.
استئناف المفاوضات.
Resuming the peace negotiations must include the return of the Golan Heights. This is absolutely non-negotiable.
أمرا محتوما لا يناقش حوله ولا يفاوض عليه.
To maintain its claim to the territory, Syria provides state benefits to the Syrian Arabs from the Golan.
طبعا من الطبيعي أن ينال أهلنا مواطني الجولان الحبيب المحتل كل رعاية وكل اهتمام، وبالتالي يعاملون كأي مواطن عربي سوري. أولادهم
It's perfectly normal for our people of the beloved occupied Golan Heights to get our support and care. They receive all the privileges and rights as any other Syrian citizen. Their children who live in Damascus or the children who live in the occupied Golan Heights have the right to education and health benefits, and they are studying at the schools and the universities in Syria. Salaries and the pensions of the retired people who work for the Syrian government are still being paid regularly every month.
لكل من كان موظفا في الدولة ما زالت سارية المفعول وقائمة.
The hopes of return are continually kept alive. Musician Sami Shoker lives in Damascus but was born in the Golan. He often performs here at the Shouting Valley. His patriotic songs of solidarity with the Syrian Arabs in the Israeli-occupied Golan drift on the wind across the valley and over the barricades to the other side.
الوضع الموجود بجولان ما بيشبه وضع ما بالعالم.
The situation in the Golan Heights is unlike any other situation in the world. When you go to Ain al-Tine on the Syrian side, across from Majd al-Shams on the Israeli-occupied side, just seeing the people there shouting to each other is very painful. I think only a heartless person would not cry at such a scene. We have a profound feeling that this pain will end soon.
لهذا الألم الطويل اللي آن أوانه أن يختفى.
لأنه People talk about televising the revolution. It's tweeting the revolution, Facebooking the revolution, videotaping the revolution.
A new world driven by new media.
This is a very peculiar moment in media history.
Nobody can force me in 2011 to watch whatever I don't want to watch.
Analyzing the media's role in shaping modern history. The Listening Post, at this time on Al Jazeera.
As geeks take on dictators, bloggers turn dissidents, and social networks root for social justice, governments are going cyber, spying on their citizens, erecting firewalls like iron curtains, and closing down websites. We ask, is cyber-generated change virtual or real? Empire at this time on Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera is journalism without frontiers.
Police are pushing the protesters and the media back off of the street.
From the mainstream.
Who will pay the ultimate price for this disaster?
To the unreported world.
Taking the less traveled path often gives you a fresh perspective.
Breaking the boundaries.
This is almost certainly the largest leak of military information in history.
Cutting through the hype.
You can see the angry exchanges outside the Ministry of Transport.
Al Jazeera is setting the news agenda.
A popular uprising that shook the country to its core. A defiant president under siege from his people. As the protesters took charge of the streets, we look back at the events that are changing Egypt.
I will stay on the air if I can until the police come
in a special program, Al Jazeera gives you a day-by-day account from those that witnessed them firsthand. Egypt burning, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Muammar Gaddafi vows to stay in Libya as his supporters take to the streets just outside the capital. Hello, I'm Shili Ghosh. You're watching Al Jazeera live from Doha with our extended coverage of the uprising in Libya. Also coming up, anti-government forces controlling AlJazeera 50 kilometers away from Tripoli prepare for a pro-Gaddafi counterattack. In Tunisia, fresh violence breaks out in the capital as the interim Prime Minister Mohamed Ghannouchi resigns. And police in Oman shoot rubber bullets at stone-throwing protesters, killing 2 of them. Government buildings and cars are set ablaze. Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi has again pledged to stay in the country. In his latest interview, this time with the Serbian television station, he repeated his claims that foreigners and al-Qaeda are to blame for the violence. The Libyan leader still has some support just outside the capital. Gaddafi loyalists took to the streets, waving posters and chanting slogans. Outside the city of AlZawiya in western Libya, there were similar scenes. The city centre, though, is in anti-government hands, but reports say that pro-Gaddafi forces are preparing to launch a counter-offensive. Jackie Rowland has more.
The town of AlZawiya lies just 50 kilometres to the west of Tripoli. Now it has become a new front line in the battle between pro- and anti-Gaddafi forces. These pictures were shot by journalists brought here by the regime. The idea was to show the outside world that Gaddafi is still in control here. Instead, the reporters found that AlZawiya was in rebel hands, at least for now. The town is surrounded by pro-Gaddafi forces. Both sides are armed with tanks and anti-aircraft guns. Gaddafi's crackdown against his opponents has been the bloodiest and most ruthless in the wave of uprisings sweeping North Africa and the Middle East. But it doesn't seem to have stemmed the rebellion against his 4-decade rule. In the east of the country, opposition forces are welcoming visitors to what they are calling Free Libya.